Hi, I'm Fran Target, and glad you joined us. And we want to bring you great business stories from people that actually have their hand in the soil and that you could learn from and that I could learn from. And we have Doug Haugh here today with us. Haugh, Scottish name, and he's with us, and he's got such an interesting business background, and we're just going to let him roll with it. And Doug, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us about your story about how you started. You went to Clemson.
Right.
Engineering degree, went out there and started working in the oil industry, I guess, and then at 27 years old, you're running a company.
Yeah, it was I'm kind of a rare breed of engineer who loves engineering for the science of it and the, I guess, training to build stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I just decided early on, instead of building things, I wanted to build businesses. But I think a lot of the training and discipline you can get through engineering, as well as other education, but certain aspects of that background and that type of thinking are actually really helpful to building businesses. You know, breaking down extremely complicated situations into individual pieces, solving those first, and then building up from that foundation, which is kind of engineering 101, also works in business, right? You've got everything from a competitive challenge to a personnel challenge to you're building new capacity for whatever you're making, to building a sales and marketing plan, right? It's the same kind of thinking.
I would think an engineer, and I wasn't an engineer, it scared me to death. All sciences did, but as an engineer, you're solving problems, you're making things work, you're fixing things. And in business, I don't care what you're doing, we're solving problems. If we're not solving problems, if we're not getting things done, so many businesses, now you've been around a while, it interests me that, so many big businesses cannot get out of their own way.
Right.
Because it's meeting, and, I'm so busy that, my calendar's filled up for the next 3 weeks, but I got 15 minutes, 3 weeks out from 3 to 3:15 that we can talk.
Right.
Does that drive you crazy?
Yes. It's the curse of getting bigger. At some level, and I think balancing that is always, even early stages of building out your businesses is pretty difficult. Because it's your insights, the solutions you came up with to those sticky problems, which typically solving those for a customer is the fastest path to value. You did that because you had time to do that. Well, then when you're running the business, now how do you balance that and continuing to have those insights so that you can continue to solve problems for people, but while you're also running the place? And I think that gets down to building your people, because you've now got to teach other people how to do that. And you also have to approach running the business with the same kind of intensity and realize that while creating that market solution or that customer solution is the sort of spark that starts it all, that you end up sort of having to solve different problems, whether they be finance. How do you find enough capital to fund the business? How do you recruit enough talent to staff the business? How do you build the processes and procedures and technology that it takes to scale the business up? All problem solving. And
how'd you learn all that? Now you told me you're 27. There's a family business in Houston, and they said, here, you run it.
So, and I think about it today and go, what were they thinking? But when you're 27, you think you know a heck of a lot more than you do. So you don't lack for confidence at that age, which is a good thing. I did have the fortune of getting some experience with a very large global company that invested in its people. So I did have a lot of
training.
I had some training.
And that company was a little company called Exxon.
So, great company. I have a lot of respect for even to this day in terms of what they invest in their people, right? I mean, they really, they understand that they own natural resources. That's the primary asset that they're managing, but they can only do that well with great people.
Inside of that big company, and I had similar experience. I went to work for the Coca-Cola company. Did you learn values of really what business is about? Business is about helping people. Business is about solving problems. In your early 20s, was that coming through from them to you that kind of give you your foundation?
And I can't say that it existed at all levels of the country, but I had a company, but I had an incredibly fortunate business team that we were on. There was a gal who I'm forever thankful to named Donna Couch, who ran our business unit. We were a couple $1 billion business unit, which in that business was small.
Yeah.
About 120 people, so you knew everybody. So it was a big company, but you still, and I quickly realized that even there, you know, approach things with a learning attitude, realizing that you just got to ask a lot of questions. You got to.
And that's important for our people,
Yeah.
whether you're 27 years old or whether you're 67 years old. You got to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Got to be curious.
Yes.
The only way to learn is to ask questions of people that are around you that are doing business.
Yeah. And I think curiosity is one of the, to this day, it's one of the most important characteristics I look for in people to get in the business, because it's one of the things you can't train. You know, I do think you can train and develop lots of other skill sets. You know, the whole were you born with it or did you develop it? You know, I think that's a meaningless argument in most cases, but I do think curiosity in some fundamental sense is sort of, you know, there or not. And those that have it, it's an important tool.
Was that natural to you?
Yeah, I've just, you know.
You've just been curious all your life.
I see it in my son now. Just as soon as you hand him something, he's taking it apart. Right? How does this work, Dad? Why does it work?
Was it back to your parents, your family, or just was something that just was part of your DNA?
I think it's, I just inherently always want to understand how does stuff work.
Yeah.
You know, I would drive my wife nuts when we're on we're on vacation in the, you know, it doesn't matter where we're at, but if we're in a, you know, we're on a ship or a boat or in a business or we're skiing and I'm, you know, I can't turn it off. I'm like, well, how does that work?
Yeah.
You know, how many people do they have staff in that? What kind of revenues are they bringing in per hour?
Yeah.
Why would people do that? And how does their product work? And, you know, and it's just.
But as an engineering background, which is not many of you guys out there, you know, most of us are not scientific engineering backgrounds, so you're looking at how this works. But now, in running a business, it's about the people.
Yes.
It's about the relationships. It's about how do you transfer that curiosity to them.
Right.
And how do you do that?
Well, I think it starts with, you know, fundamentally recognizing that your primary mission is to provide, you know, it's obviously a focus on customers, but you can't focus on customers and solve their problems if you don't focus on your people, right?
Boy,
because ultimately it's not going to be you taking care of that customer, it's going to be your team.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are, you know, there's all kinds of motivational approaches, but I've found it's very simple. You know, pay attention and understand, you know, what is motivating them, what's most important in their life. How are things with their family? And it's not about being, you know, odd and invasive or, you know, pestering people, but, you know, just demonstrating an honest to goodness curiosity about a very different thing, right?
You're talking about building relationships.
Absolutely.